Valarie, and I'm a born-again Christian, 26 years old. I'm from Western. Both my parents are Luya. Yeah. Inner healing, I knew it through Anna Shibila. She is my aunt at GCC Grace Community Center, which is at Kitengela. So about 2 years ago, I met her at a funeral, at my grandmother's funeral. So I was going through a lot during that time. There were so many things that I went through. So I had to share with her a few of them, and she had to introduce me to this church. And the first encounter was on 5th October 2021, when I had to come to GCC for some prayers and some deliverance based on what I had told her, and she had explained to me about, and I said, let me try. So it happened, I came that day. I went through, like the first day I came, I went through like 3 deliverances. There were so many. So it has always been a battle. So the first one was about crossing the threshold. We had that sermon, crossing the threshold, yeah, as far as I can remember. And this is when, yes, the deliverance happened, but I was still not feeling that weight being lifted, the whole of it, because there are still powers and things that I felt at that time were contending with the ways of God and all that. And so even though I had to break some patterns, I still felt it's not enough. So I had to talk to her again for me to come for another session. And this is when now we had to come one-on-one, meet with a few people, and then they had to take me through prayers and my childhood experience and whatever prompted to the patterns that I had in life. And I believe that was my first encounter, and this is where my journey began. A lot has happened in terms of growing into the Word of God. I remember I used to have self-esteem issues before then. I used to have self-esteem issues because of where I was brought up. I was not raised by my father. Neither was I raised with the love of my mother. So my mother gave birth to me when she was very young, when she was at class 8. And then my dad the same. So I believe rejection began from there. So when I go back to the history of my birth, she wanted to abort me 4 times. So this is when the journey of rejection began. So each time I believe there are people who have been faced with this. Maybe sometimes these teenagers who go through unwanted pregnancies, or sometimes they go through that journey and then they find that the guy does not want to take responsibility. So I was a victim of the same. And so I grew up in that environment, the toxic environment of your dad does not want you, your mom is not there for you. So I was not really raised by my mom, but the sister of my mom. So all that time I was being exposed to so many negative things like people wanting to take advantage of you, rape cases and all that. I don't want to go deep into that, but it made me grow into a bitter person. So I remember the first day when I met with my aunt Anne, I was so broken. So while explaining my story to her, she was like, I broke into tears, and she was like, I'll want to walk with you through this journey. But initially, I had attempted suicide 3 times. So this is my life before the inner healing. I had attempted, but to no avail. Something just used to come up. Like the first one, after class 8, I tried taking these disinfectants and all that to kill myself, because my mother has always been telling me, you are just useless, you are just nothing. Sometimes she prefers other people over me, name calling me and all that, like those bad names. And then is it to troll or something, making you feel bad. I can't remember the last time my mother told me, I love you, my daughter, because this is what I believe, this is what maybe some people are going through out there. You find yourself in situations that your mother is bitter because your father left her, and she has to raise you alone. At some point, I understood her pain, because maybe raising me in an incomplete family was not her wish. So by then I came to talk to Anne, my aunt, and then I told her, you know what, auntie, I have a problem, and I think this thing escalated to anger issues, the bitterness. So the bitterness she was projecting towards me is something that was also growing in me. So it happens I also have a son, and you see, these are patterns that I think have been happening. When I gave birth to my son, the father was present partially, then after some time he also walked away. So right now I'm raising my son alone. So I had my baby in my arms, and I told auntie, this is not the life I wanted. So by then I was feeling like so weak spiritually, and even if I used to go to church, I was like, God, why am I coming to church? Because all my life has been full of pain, and all my life has been, I just felt like I could not do it anymore. And then there's this thing we were being told, there's this statement that we were being told almost all the time when we were in the church, like, just learn to love yourself, you love your neighbors, you love yourself. And then I used to go and pray to God and ask him, why do you want me to love myself? Why do you want me to love you? Love your God with all your heart, with all your might and all that. So, this thing, I was never really getting it right, because I used to go and tell God, why do you want me to love you when I don't know how to love myself? You've never been there. I've never experienced that. So when I look at my life, after he has transformed me, and after I came for inner healing, I realized that most of the time when you hurt, if you don't get that time, if you don't take that time to heal and forgive yourself and forgive others for what they've done, taking offense into heart, sometimes it can damage you. And so I believe my journey after inner healing has been something, so many things have shifted. Like, I've learned to love myself, and loving yourself comes from acceptance. You accepting a situation, even though the hurt, the damage was done to you, it's your responsibility to heal, to take it upon yourself, and to just go through the healing process. And so when the healing began, I realized there's some bloodline issues, the patterns and all that, and so we had to break them. And so after that, I now realized that ways started opening and all that. Yeah, there's this thing that I can say the enemy does. The enemy's aim is to do 3 things: to kill, to destroy, and to steal. And whenever he imposes some things in your life, there are deposits he leaves. And so if you've been raised in a damaged family or raised in a toxic environment, there are things, no matter how good you are, you will always believe that the way I was raised, this is who I am, of which it's a lie. And so with this, I would recommend, if you've gone through any type of trauma, hurt or pain, and you still feel you've not forgiven enough, you still feel you've not you're not the person who you used to be, because healing is a process. You can't heal in one day. You need that guidance from somebody or people who have gone through that and they've overcome. You still need to go through that for you to be at least complete. Just like I said, it was not your fault. It was never your fault to be raised in an abusive family. It was never your fault to go through the pain that you went through. But it's your responsibility to just go through the healing process. And above all, remember to forgive yourself. Remember to forgive those people who have made you go through that. Because at the end of the day, it is written that we don't race against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers and rulers of darkness. Sometimes there are people who make you go through that because it's just the influence of the enemy, the devil, but it's not them actually. So at the end of the day, that's why we're being called to have compassion towards one another, forgive one another, and to just rely on God. Because at the end of the day, we are all human and we have our own weaknesses. So I believe it's a good thing. For me, it transformed me in so many ways. Like, I've been able to, the anger issues I used to have, the self-pity was like a part of my life. And it made me feel like, if you don't do what I want, so you don't love me. Because I've been raised in that environment that people want to push you around. And this is what the enemy did to me. He deposited that anger. You know, now rebellion started kicking in because I used to be abused so much, verbally, emotionally, physically. So at the end of the day, I became rebellious. And now you have to realize that after this has happened to you, you have to get out of that, because that's not the character of God. You have to find ways of not being that. So at the end of the day, the healing process comes in with acceptance. You have to accept that this happened to you, and you really need to go through that for you to be saved completely. Because in as much as I was a born-again Christian, I used to find myself with these weaknesses in between. You cannot do this, you cannot do that. But I've realized even while I'm social networking, when you tell me I know, I'm comfortable with it, because I know that's not rejection. But initially, when somebody could say no, I used to feel rejected. That's self-pity. Like, I used to feel rejected so much. And I came to learn that it's okay for somebody to tell you no. Not because they hate you, but because people have their own preferences. And so when you go through this, it will help you learn, it will help you grow, it will help you become a better version of yourself, just like the way I did.